as the League of Friends of Glangwili General Hospital. Now, in 1948, the National Health Service became known, and it was in 1948 that the League of Friends were formed. And the purpose of the League of Friends was to support the hospital as much as we could. And we were raising money to buy equipment for every department in the hospital. And we were then, in those days, giving the patients a big Christmas tea. And we had different functions. And we used to hold a biannual fete. And we made quite a substantial sum of money. Now, in 1970, the League of Friends went public, and they decided to build a hydrotherapy pool in Glangwili Hospital. And in those days, it cost £72,000, which was a lot of money to raise in 1971. And it was handed over to Mr. Rees, who was the orthopaedic surgeon, Richard Rees, and he was known as Dickie Rees, to Mr. Rees in 1972, and that pool is still going strong today.
Well, I'm going back very much, quite a number of years before that, and we've got memories of the old Priory Street and the beginning of Glangwili Hospital. And this was formed, the health service was formed in 1948, and 60 years on, some individuals may suggest that we should only look to the future and not review development over the past 60 years, really. However, not to do so would be most certainly be a great injustice to those pioneering staff of all grades who built up the service which we all benefited from and will continue to for many more years to come. It is not the foresight and determination of some persons. The West Wales Hospital might have been lost to other neighbouring areas there, really. Plans for setting up the government-run health service from 1944, although Lord George tried to put forward similar plans after World War, but each time the opposition to the proposed reform, it was abandoned. An Irene Bevan vision was not welcomed by all open arms. It was not welcomed by all open arms. There was a Sunday afternoon meeting at St David's Hospital, and some of us went there, really. We were given an afternoon off to go. We thought it was really wonderful. For 20 years, Carmarthen Infirmary found difficult in expanding service to meet the increasing demand in 1935. Plans to relocate to Friars Park were rejected. That is where Tesco had been in town. Despite the addition of Miles Phillips' wing in 1937, problems were not entirely solved. Anyway, the war years starved all hospitals of much-needed improvement. The Welsh Board of Health report changes, 1939 to 1949 war. Our American allies were to find the solution. The ex-military hospital was being used as a German and Italian prisoner of war camp. Talks between Mr. J.R.E. James, Dr. Harold Lloyd, and other doctors on the management committee paid off. And on February 1947, it was confirmed that we would have the camp as a hospital. It was an American hospital at the time. And we took over everything that stood in that hospital, really. 3 wards, through theatres and everything, you know, and that's where Glangwili Hospital is at the moment. The Winston huts there were transformed. Voluntary contribution played a great part in this. By now, Priory Street had many more patients of all nationality.
I had a phone call one evening saying that it was the chief executive of the National Association of League of Friends, and he rang me and told me that he had a surprise for me, that I'd won something. And me as I am, at the time there was a big car raffle and the first prize was a car. So I said to him, oh, I've won the car, have I? No, Joe, you haven't won the car, but you have won something which I'm sure you will enjoy. And I was chosen by ballot to represent the League of Friends of Wales to a visit to Her Majesty, the Queen Mother, at Clarence House. So the day previous, we were in the House of Lords, to which we had to go through 5 scanners to get in. But when we went to Clarence House, the chief executive handed to the police just a list of everybody. We were 24 people in all. And he just showed it to the policeman, and the door was opened, and in we went. And there was the Queen Mother waiting for us. Well, from the time we got in her company, you would have thought you were in an ordinary household. Oh. It was a laugh a minute. Oh. And she was very, very witty. And we had refreshments, coffee, tea, and sandwiches. And the Baroness Doreen, who was associated with the National Association of Leagues, and gave her a big cake. And she said to her lady in waiting, we'll have to get plates. No, the Baroness said, the cake is all for you, ma'am, because you like chocolate cake. And quick as that, she said, and you, she said, are trying to make me fat, aren't you? And 2 weeks later, I had a phone call. Have you been to town? No. Why should I go? Oh, they said there's a big sellout of a law magazine. And there was a photograph, and I was in the 2 photographs on Clarence House.
Well, anyway, I mustn't leave out the GPs of Carmarthen really at the time, because but for them working in their own practice and setting up Priory Street and doing everything really. So the first consultant in the early days, specialist, came from Swansea, and I specialist from Llanelli, Mr. Healy and Mr. Forrester. Dr. A.L. Davis, Morville Lane, was the anaesthetist, rag and bottle. Dr. Arwin Davis, Dr. Harold Lloyd performed surgery, and Dr. Webb emergencies. So, but for the GPs of Carmarthen, which they were all in various practice, we wouldn't have been here. Well, it wouldn't have been able to establish staff really, medical staff, ready for Glangwili. So J.R.E. James established maternity and gynecology under the guidance of Professor Miles Phillips, retired consultant. He lived in Larne. This is where the Miles Phillips's wing came in. So Dr. Feldstein from Austria, an European gynecologist, was also available. Invaluable person during the latter years of the war. He then moved to America as a consultant. Miss Hatton, the matron, retired in July 1947 after 20 years service. She was always, be remembered, always on duty and wore a long black frock. And if you she was always in the front hall looking at staff coming off in the day and to make sure we didn't go out after duty. So in 1948 the League of Friends were formed, and in 1952 the WRVS was formed, both still running well. The Queen Mother opened the first ward, Towie Ward, Tivy Ward and Clither Ward in 1959. Since then the hospital has grown from strength to strength. Now room for building is very scarce, really.
Well, 3 members of the League have been awarded the Order of Mercy for Distinguished Voluntary Service. They've had medals. Now, the 3 of them, and Mrs. Pat Purcell was the last one to receive one very recently, so she will have good memories of what happened. You went up to London. Could you describe, Pat, then, from there on? You had one as well, and you went up to London to receive the medal. Could you describe where you went to and what happened?
Yes. June was the first one, and then Della was the next one, and I had it last year. And I went up to the Mansion House in London, and it was presented to me by Lord Lingfield. The chairman came with me and my husband, because I could take 2 guests, and I had to change up there, you see, because I didn't want to travel up in my outfit. And then we were taken to a side room, and we were given a pin on there, and then we were escorted to the main room, and in the corner there was a little orchestra playing, which was lovely, and on each seat was your name and all the other people's names as well on another sheet, telling you about them, what they'd got, and they were from all over the country, and each person was taken individually up to get the medal, and it was explained to everybody why they were getting that medal and where they came from. And it was really very humbling, because some had been in the war and they hadn't got legs, and they were on, artificial legs, but they were determined to get up to the dais on their own. Wonderful. It was really wonderful day. And then he spoke to everybody, Lord Lingfield. He never just gave you the medal and that was it. He spoke to you and asked you where you came from. He remembered that I'd been with June, and that was 3 years before? 4 years before? Yeah. I went with you, and he remembered that, which I thought was wonderful, really. And the exciting thing was that Della had given me a book. Have you got a similar book there? To give to Lady Lingfield. And she asked me if I would give this book to Lady Lingfield, because she was very interested to hear about the work we do and what was going on in Carmarthen. And I gave her this book. She was over the moon. She just couldn't believe that anybody could have bothered to do it. And within 2 days, I think you'd had a letter of thank you.
I've had a few letters from her, really.
Yes, which I thought was wonderful, really. But it was really a very exciting day, and, well, it's as good as going to Buckingham Palace, to be honest. And you come home with your medal, which we each had, as you can see. The book contains a brief account of the institutional care of the sick in Carmarthenshire since the 12th century, with a detailed and lavishly illustrated history of the county infirmary, which is up for sale now, and its direct descendant, the West Wales General Hospital. Lloyd George's National Insurance Act 1911, the Beveridge Report 1942, and lessons learned from the two world wars laid the foundations of the modern welfare state. The establishment and politics of the National Health Service, the history of evidence-based medicine and clinical governance, and the development of the nursing and medical professions are included as essential background material in this book. Yeah. And there's a picture on the back of the original.
in 2013, 5 members of the League received long service medals. I don't know how long that would be, 20 years or something like that.
More than that.
More than that,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
more than 20 years, okay. And 3 of them are here today. Mrs. Beer, Yella, and Pat. They received long service medals.
And that was from Attend. Attend is our umbrella, and the head office is in London. And we have we're represented by Mr. Ken Rees, who is in Llanelli. And in actual fact, he is a member of Llanelli League of Friends. And he's our link, and he goes up to London. He'd never met us really before, and he wanted to know how long we'd been coming as members. And the next thing is, he supplied us with a certificate for long service, which we'd never had before, which was quite interesting.
We wouldn't have a League of Friends if we couldn't raise money. We need funds so that we can purchase things for the hospital, needy things. And there are different ways we do that. Now I'm going to pass over now to Ms. Pat Purcell. Could you explain, Pat, how we raised most of the money?
We have money, it comes in from people who have been in the hospital and they've been very happy with the service and they feel they want to donate to the League of Friends. Some say specifically for a ward, and it is our duty as members of the League of Friends to see that that money is used for that purpose, and we try to do that. The other thing is when unfortunately people pass away, their relatives arrange for the money to come to us instead of floral tributes, which is, you know, very nice. The other thing is we have legacies, sometimes from people that have been members and they've arranged to leave money. The other thing is we have, as June said, a summer fair and a winter fair, and the staff of the hospital help us there because we're not a very big organisation, and that is in the hospital. The other thing is we go collecting sometimes in one of the stores and raise money then. But, you know, it's an ongoing thing. Now, over the years, we've raised well in excess of £1 million. Well in excess of £1 million. I can't give you the exact figures because I'm not the treasurer, but it's well in excess of £1 million. At the moment, in Llanelli, I expect you've read about it in the papers, that the prostate machine, they wanted that. It's a very, very sophisticated machine, and various organisations are helping the League of Friends up there and the hospital to raise this money because it will be the very first one in Wales. In fact, there's only 2 others in the United Kingdom. Right? This machine is well in excess of £100,000. People have got to be trained to use it, and it should be with Prince Philip at the end of May. Now, we understand that if we give some money towards that, because we would be able to use it up there as well, because it's Hywel Dda. If we give, say, 20,000, it can also be adapted to use it for women, not just for men. It can be used for women's problems, which is really quite something. It's something that's quite new to Wales.